And here we are again. This is part 2 of week 9, cis204, Unix shell scripting and utilities, and we're talking about sed, whether you want to or not. Here we go. Let me dump this cheesy camera. When we left off, we talked about the -n option with sed. We looked at this file, noticed it had 9 lines. Then we output the sed, looking for north somewhere in the file and printing that line, and that was done in the data file. And we picked up the northwest twice, the northeast twice, and the north twice. When we suppressed the -n option, we ended up with only the 3 lines that it matched. In other words, it suppressed everything that it would not normally read, or that it didn't match. So let's see what happens if we just do this, and this is just for grins. It may do nothing. Sed-e expression number 1, character 7. It's missing a command. It doesn't know what to do in this case. So isn't that special? In other words, you have to tell sed to do something. It can't just look for a regular expression and do nothing. It has to see the regular expression, and it has to do something with it. In this case, it finds it and prints. So, moving forward. So, here's the fun one. This data file will do a sed 3D on the data file. And what should we expect to see here? If we do this, if we more the data file, we end up with 9 lines. The third line happens to be this one that says Southwest and Louis d'Alsace. So let's try this sed 3D data file. Now, what are our guesses on what the output's going to be? My take is I believe I'm going to see northwest, western, southern, southeast, eastern, northeast, north, and central. I'm going to see 8 lines, not 9. The southwest line, of course, is missing. Let's try that again. This time looking at how many lines are output. 8. So that worked. Well, what about this one? How many lines should I see here? In this case, I'm telling it, hey, take a range of files and get rid of them. In this case, everything from 3 to the end of the file, throw away. I should have 2 lines in this file, northwestern, western. Sure enough, that's what I get. How about this? Sed, $-D. What line should I be missing here? I would expect the last line of the file to be the one that was thrown away. Sure enough, central's missing. What about this? Every time I see north, I get rid of the line. I delete it. What should I see here? 6 lines, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't see a northwest, I don't see a northeast, and I don't see a north. They're all gone. So, what's going on here? Sed's non-destructive, so this delete sends all but the 3rd line to standard out, deleting the 3rd line. So, are we sure that it's non-destructive? Well, let's take a look at data file again. How many lines was that? That's 9. That's what we started with. Okay, so it's non-destructive. The second command that we tried, the sed open quote 3, $$D close quote data file, that sends only the first 2 lines of the output to standard out and ignores lines 3 through the end of the file. The comma is known as a range operator. In this case, it uses the comma instead of a dash. And of course, the $$ is the end of the line, or in this case, the last line in the file. So there's the second thing we tried is the sed $D data file, and then the sed north the data file. In this second example, a pattern North is used to determine which lines to delete. In this case, any line containing north will not be output. You're working with a database. Somebody comes to you and says, you know, it's going to take a month or two for us to figure out how to deal with this. We've got a CSV that we can give you that we've got to get rid of a certain SKU number for a product in our inventory because the manufacturer has decided that it's defective and we're not going to use it anymore. If you can figure out a way of getting rid of that SKU and all of the descriptions and the rest of it and the pricing and which stores it's in and how much the manager can discount it, that type of thing. If you can find a way of getting rid of that and giving us back that CSV without that junk in it, you'll get a bonus this week. So here you go. Said, open quote, slash, whatever the SKU number is, slash D. Put that to new underbar CSV, new underbar SKU underbar CSV, and give it back to them and get your bonus. So, heck of a deal. But that's the kinds of things that said does. If you look at it in the sense of if you're dealing with Word documents, for example, you'd be using the find and replace or find and delete or something like that. But said does it almost automatically. It can do it across multiple files. It works like a charm, and it is so much more efficient than using one of the either the LibreOffice or the Microsoft Word documents, that type of thing, to make it happen. So one of the commands that you're going to use quite a bit in SED is the S command for substitution. It will basically find text and replace that text with something else for the line that's being processed. Now again, you're going to have a delimiter that shows you here's what text I want you to find is inside the delimiters. Then the text to replace it with is inside the next set of delimiters. And you're basically going to have the text to be replaced is defined, and then the replacement text has to be defined. The G flag will replace all matches on the line. Remember that Audi? Audi showed up in more than one line. So when we replaced it with GM, we said find Audi, replace it with GM, and do it every time you find an Audi on the line. And that worked. The G flag replaces all matches on the line. The P flag prints the modified line if the -N option for SED is specified. So if I do this in the data file, SED change west, find a west and change it with north, right? So SED substitute west with north. Do it globally. Anytime you see north or west on the line, substitute it. So I'm going to see a south, I should see a north-north, a northern, a south-north in this file. There it is. North-north, northern, south-north, southern, southeast, eastern, northeast, north, and central. Notice what it did. That northern forced the file, there's tabs in this file. If I VI this data file and we do this, set list, right? Those $i's are tabs, and notice here in the second line is 2 tabs. So NORTHERN is just one character beyond what it needs to be. So that's why you saw this little nasty northern and it peeling out at the end of the file there, like that, into another line. If, for instance, this was a little bit longer, I'd still see this. The tab would have been shifted, but nevertheless, That's something you have to watch out for when you're using sed, is formatting. What's the format of the file, and how is this command going to change the format of the file? So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, if I were to do this again with a P at the end of it, find west at the beginning of the line is what I'm asking it to do. And then if I don't do this, I will get every line, right? Northwest, northern, all of it. But what if I do this? Dash N. It only found west at the beginning of one line. And it was western. And there it is. There it is. Notice how it printed that line twice? Okay. So, let's move on. The ampersand in the replacement string basically copies what was found. In other words, content can be added to what was found. So what about this line? Sed, substitute, find a number and another number, dollar at the end of the line, and then whatever those two numbers were, put a .5 at the end of them. Now, there's something funny going on here, and I will try to show this. Let me run this command against the datafile.save. Hopefully, this has the bad image. Nope, it certainly does not. This was a case where when we originally had these files, they were encoded with the Microsoft end-of-line setup. So they had a $sign and a Control-M, or the carriage return. They had an end-of-line and a carriage return on them. It looks like I have cleaned up every single one of these things so that I no longer can show you how badly this works when you have that carriage return sitting in the middle of the record. Nope. Wait a minute. Charles West, Maine? I've got some fun stuff sitting in that one. Anyhow, let's do this. Let's take a peek again and see if I might not have it somewhere in here. Let's see if it's in temp. Oh, let's vi datafile.temp. Set list, right? Okay. Set show mode. Okay. Well, we're going to come back to this in just a moment. Give me a second here. I'm going to pause while I get something and show you something fun about this. Okay, we're back. And let me do this. A moment ago I talked about the fact that Microsoft Windows uses an end-of-line and a carriage return at the same time. Well, while I was out and about, busily away, I was rummaging through looking for a good, clean copy of the original Quigley document that came to us from the CD. Happened to find one on my machine. Now the fun thing is if I do this command, set list, which should show me all of the characters, the tabs, and the end of lines in the file that I'm working on. And if I do this command, E space ++FF equal Unix, I should see the Control-M. Well, I've cleaned up every one of these files that I have in my account on cis.jccc.edu, but I happened to find one in my home directory. Remember a couple of weeks ago we talked about the PS1 and how I really like the K-shell PS1 because I just got a $sign instead of a big long pass statement. Well, here I am at my home directory in the file documents, in cis204, in outside sources, in Quigley Unix files, in chapter 05. So when I get ready to do something, I'm doing it at the end of the line, basically, and my command is going to wrap to a new line. Not good. Well, I just happen to have this data file .nfg, and if I do this, come back here. If I do this, I should be at the end of the line. Every one of those two-digit numbers at the end of the line should be appended with a .5. Wait a minute. It didn't work. It didn't see any two-digit numbers at the end of the line. Why not? They're there. They're at the end of the line. When I ran that command here, and I can take a look, there's that data file. If I run this command here, it replaces them. So what's the deal? Well, let me take a look at this again. Let's VI that data file, and let's do that set list, right? Okay, so here's a two-digit number and the end of the line. Makes sense? That got a .5 on it, didn't it? Here's a bunch more. Here's one that only has a single-digit number, and it didn't do that one, did it? So let's do this. E ++FF equal Unix again. Is there anything else in here? Nope. That's it. So let me go to here. What's going on here? I ran that same command here, and I got this junk response. Let's try this. NFG again. Same thing. It doesn't work. Let's VI this data file .nfg and see what we've got floating around in here. Okay, first thing up, let's do a set list. Okay, well, hey, there's the 34 in the end of the line, right? So what's going on? Why isn't this working? Let's do that. E ++FF equal Unix. There it is. The nasty carriage return. And guess where that is? That's between the 34 and the end of the line. So how do I get around that? Well, there's a couple of ways. The easiest and the best way is to get rid of the carriage return. But let's go back to this command. Let's say that that's not what I want it to do, but this escape R. So what's the escape R? Basically, that should do it when it sees the carriage return. But it's not working on that one, is it? How about we try this? Nope. Guess what it did? It replaced it at the very beginning of the line. So what's going on here? Well, again, this is the fact that this file was set up for Microsoft. It was not set up for Unix. So what should work ends up creating this nightmare situation where your file ends up becoming just almost unuseful. And in this case, look what it did. Again, this thing is just absolutely nuts. That's why I insist that we don't use Microsoft stuff in this class. So let's stop right there. I'm going to come back and we'll get part 3 in just a moment. No more of this Microsoft nonsense. Actually, we'll just fast forward to a slide here. We can do this file format. Again, Unix is line feed only, DOS is carriage return and line feed, and Mac is carriage return only. Now that data file, we could have gone in and set FF question mark and we would have seen that. So how do I change the file format? So once you've determined that the file is unusable, you can edit the format. You can try this inside a VI session, and that's at E++ FF equal unit. The E edits the file, not the contents. The ++FF is used to change the displayed file format. And of course, Unix is the preferred format. Now what's visible at the end of each line? That nasty Control M, also known as the escape R or carriage return. So how do I remove that quickly? Get to the bottom of the file, or do the escape, $1, $S, substitute, find the Control M, the /R and the escape R in this case, and substitute it with nothing. Or the %S will get everything. The $1 the $1 gets all the lines in the file. The escape R is the symbol for carriage return, and we're substituting nothing actually for the Control M. So then you'd write the data file into a new, in this case, data file Unix, and you'd quit the editor. And now we're going to see that that worked, and we're going to move on to part 3.